Today we're going to talk about anticipation in conference interpreting. Our source is a lecture called The Same. Anticipation has been recognized as a strategy of simultaneous interpreting since decades ago, since 1952, but it wasn't until 1978 in a symposium of the OTAN that it began to be studied in a systematic way. This happened thanks to different authors like Wills, Chernoff, and others. Anticipation can be defined as the interpreter's capacity to produce one or more words before or simultaneously with the speaker. The interpreter can achieve this through contextual information. There are two types of anticipation: word prediction and sense expectation. Word prediction only requires linguistic knowledge. It doesn't need additional context. For example, with a sentence, people are playing important positive, you can anticipate the roles. Regarding sense expectation, this one actually needs contextual information. For instance, the phrase, "they held off." If the speech is regarding war or something like that, the idea can be completed with "their enemies attacked." So the full phrase is, "they're held off, their enemies attacked." But if the context is more diplomatic, then the interpreter can anticipate it could be "they're held off, their rendition." There's other type of anticipation regarding courtesy, and you can find it at the beginning and end of any speech. Lederer also established a difference between anticipation and freewheeling. Anticipation is when the interpreter's production is before the speaker's word, and freewheeling is when the interpreter and the speaker go almost simultaneously. Regarding the objectives of anticipation, anticipation is helpful to manage the complexity of interpreting. It does so through improving the quality of interpretation and improving the harmony between languages that have different syntactic structures. For example, German the structure is subject, object, verb, while Spanish is subject, verb, object. Anticipation has also been studied in different fields like sports or car driving. In those cases, anticipation is a response to a stimulus. For instance, a volleyball player, you can anticipate the position depending of the position of your opponent. Anticipation to any kind of a stimulus is a voluntary act. In the case of sports, this anticipation is provoked through the ambiguous nucleus of the of our brain. This proves that anticipation is a cognitive process. Now we're going to talk about a cognitive definition of anticipation. Anticipation has been defined as an observable act. Saying this doesn't capture all the mental process behind it. It's important to have a cognitive perspective of anticipation. We can do that through psychophysiology. We can understand anticipation as a continuous cognitive process that aligns with the semantic analysis of the speech when interpreting. For example, according to Lee, anticipation is about formulating expectations of meaning. We form these expectations through the source language and we contrast them with the information we receive. And if the expectations align with what is happening in the real context, then the interpreter can produce an idea immediately. The bot's definition is different. According to the bot, anticipation is a mechanism of the activation of previous knowledge. However, we consider that anticipation is not only a reaction to external stimulus, but a cognitive activity that we do on purpose that combines perception, inferences, and memory. Here, psychophysiology is very important because anticipation is not a simple reaction, it's a physical and mental preparation that happens in the interpreter just before the speaker finishes his words. We can compare what I told you with this schema. For example, S represents stimulus, the message of the speaker. Since there, the interpreter activates a phase of identification, which is a physical and mental preparation of what's coming. Then, a response is generated, represented by the letter R. And depending if this answer is correct, it will align with the message of the speaker. We can understand anticipation as the construction of a mental representation that at the beginning is incomplete, but it works as a base to produce a message at the same time as the speaker. So, why is the relevant theory appropriate? First, because the relevance theory says that not every communicative act is linguistic, but it has a pragmatic insight. Secondly, this theory provides conceptual tools that are very useful to understand the cognitive surroundings, the contextual effect, and the inferences that the interpreter makes. Lastly, this theory allows understanding interpretation as a inferential and ostensive communication process in which the speaker produces a stimulus for the interpreter. These stimulus provoke the interpreter to have certain suppositions, and the interpreter then picks which suppositions are more relevant to the speech. So